First group, Voskhod 1. Go ahead.
Alright, so I'm Raven Canova.
I'm Shannon Page, and today I'm going to be Vladimir Komarov.
I'm Destiny Hoyt.
Alright, so the Voskhod 1 is one of the first many spacecrafts that the Russian space program launched into space to try and get, and this one was to try and get a 3-man spacecraft into orbit and try and get the data from that to see if they could actually get it to the moon or not, if it was possible. And this was during the Cold War, so it was the race to the moon.
Voskhod 1 is launched on October 12, 1964. On board are a record 3 cosmonauts. Because of the cramped confines of the spacecraft, the crew does not wear spacesuits. This factor would have caused certain death for the crew in the event of cabin depressurization, but the Soviets insist on beating the Americans to the milestone of the first multi-person flight. The crew returns after only a day in space.
Play this one too? No.
No.
It is done. So that was just a brief review, and you can see pictures of what they wore in the video. And that affected their flight because their flight was like so crammed because it was basically like a spacecraft meant for one person, but they crammed 3 people into it, so they just did away with actual spacesuits. So.
Are you guys
You gotta go back. Alright, so Vladimir was the commander of the entire mission, actually. He was the commander of flying the space shuttle. Konstantin was the flight engineer, and Boris was the medical specialist, and that was the 3-man crew that they wanted to send into orbit. Alright, so Konstantin. He was a flight engineer and a Soviet cosmonaut. He went to the Berman Moscow State Technical University. He lived about 83 years, and he's written many books, and he had a far side of a crater on the moon named after him.
Alright, Boris Yegorov was a medical specialist. He was also a cosmonaut on the Voskhod 1. He was the first physician to be flown into space. His father was a heart surgeon and his mom was an ophthalmologist. He was married 3 times and had 3 children. He was born November 26, 1937, and he died September 12, 1994. He received many awards for his flight. He received Hero of the Soviet Union, Order of the Lenin, and Order of the Red Banner of Labor. A medical specialist is just kind of covering a lot of the medical jobs. It's someone who specializes in one specific area. Some physicians work in a doctor's office or a clinic, like an urgent care clinic. Some also work in a hospital. Examples of the different specialties are dermatologist and gastroenterologist.
Alright, this is me. My name, Vladimir Komarov, and I'm going to read my speech. So I was born in March 16th, 1927 in Moscow. So far, I have only gone on 1 space mission, but I'm going to be the commander of a mission that is planned to launch later this month. I'm currently part of Group Air Force 1, which is the Soviet Union's first squad of cosmonauts. After I fly this next planned mission, I will officially be the first Soviet cosmonaut to fly more than 1 mission. I know that you may be thinking that I'm some high and mighty dude, but I was once like you. I was declared medically unfit for training and spaceflight twice, but I didn't let that stop me. It just made me have more passion and will to go full force at this. I was able to carry my weight with my knowledge and my skills in engineering, and I was considered to be one of the most skilled men in the Soviet Union at the time. It had always been a passion of mine to fly, and I knew that I was going to, no matter what. When I was 15, I entered a special Air Force school to pursue my dreams. My father passed away shortly after I went into this school, so I buried myself in studies, and again, I drove harder. I finished my training at the Czechoslovak Higher Air Force School in Voskhod. My mother passed away before I graduated, so both my parents weren't at my graduation. I have been awarded Gold Star Hero, Soviet Union, Order of Lenin, Order of the Red Star, Medal for Combat Merit, Pilot Cosmonaut of the USSR. I was the oldest pilot to be selected into the Air Force Group 1. I was 32 at the time, and the maximum age of 27, so they made an exception for me because of my engineering skills. I was selected as a backup pilot for the Vostok 4, but the pilot went through with it, so I wasn't selected. I must share with you, my friends, that I'm afraid of doing this next mission, for I do not feel like I'm going to survive. This mission is too risky. The Voskhod 1 was a success, but after this mission, it just seems impossible. My backup girl, a close friend, seems to agree with me. It just doesn't seem realistic. There are too many problems, but I have a commitment to my people and to my union, so I must go. If I could leave you with one piece of advice, I would encourage you to chase your dreams and don't believe what people say. You can make it, and I know you will. You want to watch that.
Okay, so the Voskhod Rocket 1, or the Voskhod 1 rocket, was a rocket that stood about 44,418 meters, or 145,728 feet tall. And it was a solid fuel rocket, so it didn't have any of the risk of having gases leak on themselves and combusting upon launch.
The spacecraft of the Voskhod 1 model is 3 kV number 3. The length of this spacecraft is 16.40 feet. The diameter is 2.4 meters, 7.92 feet. The mass is 5.32 tons.
Okay, so this was just a basic flight map and their launch trajectory. It's the flight tracker of the flight taken by Voskhod 1 during its 1 day in orbit.
The flight plan. The Voskhod 1 was scheduled to launch at 10 o'clock in Moscow on August 12th, or October 12th in 1964. The spacecraft was actually launched on October 13th, 1964. The duration of the flight was 1 day, 17 hours, and the flight was unexpectedly longer than what it was originally called for, and they were called back after a day.
This mission objective, it wasn't planned to be successful. We knew that the probability of this mission being successful was not very high, but we were doing this to find more information and get new research on our technology. So it was considered a success because of the information that we have acquired. So we tested different equipment, technology, as I said before, and we saw that we do need spacesuits. Keep going.
What it built on, it came from, and led to. It built on the old models in attempts to put a first man into the orbit of the Earth. It came from a design that used the lift system from a rocket like the Vostok, which later led to a complete orbit around the Earth with better rockets. Voskhod mission led directly to the Soyuz program.
Voskhod 2. Voskhod 1 helped lead into this mission, and at first, the original name of the spacecraft was Advance, referring to the advancement of the first one. And this mission was seen as a huge advancement, and it gained national bragging rights. So you can watch this video. This is just some footage from the second mission, because there wasn't much from the first one. But these are their new and improved spacesuits. Again, this was made during the race to the moon. So that's why this seems like such a big deal. Because we were able to put a multiple person spacecraft into space, and we were the first to do that. So. Yeah.
Alright, so success or failure of the mission. The mission was a success. The fact that they were able to put a 3-man spacecraft into orbit for one complete day, but it was a failure because there's multiple flaws in it. They had to get rid of the entire assignment twice and start from scratch. Finally, they just used technology that they already had from older rockets and used that to complete the project.
It could have been planned better. It was very unplanned and it was just kind of thrown out there. The mission was first introduced, everyone thought it would be extremely risky. There was no spacesuits, there was no ejection seats, and no escape tower. So if something wrong happens, they couldn't get out. To fix this, they could have given more time and thought into the whole project to make it safer and obviously less risky. It was so crunched for time that when they first announced the project, they had to have the cosmonauts chosen within 1 month, and then they had to be trained within 3 months.
The hardest part of the mission were the circumstances that we were under. Men had no ejection seats, as we mentioned, and it was built off the Voskhod. And as the conditions were, we were very hurried, so we didn't have time to perfect a lot of things, and we were just out there for the race, and weren't really for the quality of it. We were just trying to get new research, trying to get better technology, and just trying to advance, so we didn't really perfect it before it went up.
Alright, question 1. Who was the commander of the Voskhod 1 spacecraft?
And there is a question about him, which I forgot to mention. This man was the first to die in a spacecraft mission, but he died when he was crashing from the Soyuz 1, and it crashed on Earth, so it wasn't considered a space death, but he was the first to die in a spacecraft mission.
Vladimir
And,
Komarov.
oh,
Alright, well, this one already has its answer. How tall was the Voskhod rocket? Alright, how long was the mission of the Voskhod 1 rocket?
1 day, 17 hours, and 3 minutes.
Thanks for participating. Alright, what was the Voskhod 1 a success? Why was the Voskhod 1 a success? So,
What?
same here. What program did Voskhod later become? Anyone?
The
Is that there?
The Voskhod mission later became known as
Like,
Voskhod.
go. Alright. I'm gonna add some more information. More about Vladimir Komarov. After he did the first mission with the Voskhod, he felt pretty confident that he could go again. And the Air Force knew that like this man is very wise and he would be able to help us on future missions. So when